What would you do if you crashed on a deserted planet with no rescue coming, and the only way to survive the grief was to build a lie so convincing that you started to believe it yourself? That is the gut punch at the center of Oasis. Hey, everybody. My name is Captain Schaff. I am 1/3 of the Treknopod podcast. If you aren't familiar with Treknopod, we're the type of podcast where we're going to boldly go and watch some Star Trek, and you're boldly going to have some fun while we do it. So, with me each week, thankfully, my dearest friend, one of my oldest friends, Captain Vactor. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing excellent because I'm here with Schaff, and we're going to be talking about Star Trek, so that makes me very happy. Schaff, how are you?
Yeah, we're so excited. We're back. We've had a few weeks to ourselves. We've had some birthdays come past, and unfortunately, our dear co-host friend Linda is not able to join us this week, but we say hi, we miss you, and we'll see you soon. She's finishing up her busy college semester. So we're going to be talking about episode 20 of season 1 of Enterprise. And just the briefest of synopsises: the crew of the Enterprise, they search for a seemingly abandoned ship on a deserted planet, and what they find is a kind of a big surprise. Now, this episode aired on April 3rd, 2002, which is not too far off from the date that we're recording this podcast, which is April 20th. 420, smoke them if you got them. But with that in mind, I mean, look at that, where it's 2026. Vactor, I don't have a calculator. Do the math for me. How many years is that?
I don't know, Shaw, but let me put it in here. What
24 years, right?
Yeah,
24.
That's right. Yeah.
We're in the future. We know our math. We know how to do some subtraction. All right. So this episode was really interesting. We had taken some time off of the podcast, and now we're back, and we're so glad to get back into our discussion of Enterprise. All right, so without further ado, we are going to institute a red alert because we are going to be getting into spoilers for this episode. And if you, like us, are going through a watch or maybe a rewatch of Enterprise, we don't want to spoil anything for you if you haven't had a chance to see it. Now, with that in mind, this episode, it starts off one way, it finishes a totally different way. Vactor, initial thoughts, did you enjoy the episode?
I enjoyed it very much because Deep Space Nine, one of my favorite characters was Odo. Not only Odo, but Quark. Those are my favorite characters besides Cisco. So when I saw Rene Auberjonois, when I saw him, I said, man, I can't believe it. This is going to be a great episode. And not only that, but there was some fortuitous synchronicity between Schaff's real life in 2026 and this episode that was filmed like 24 years ago. So I said, this was meant to be, Schaff. This was meant to be.
It's true.
With our schedules linked up.
It's so true. Yeah, by the way, your pronunciation of Odo's real name, Rene Auberjonois, honestly, I only just learned how to pronounce that today, 5 minutes ago, before we started recording, because all this time, if you were to ask me yesterday, hey, how do you say his name? I would have said Rene Auberjonois. Auberjonois. No, I was like, I don't feel comfortable saying that on the podcast because I feel like I'm going to get straight up roasted in the comment section for butchering his last name. So I was determined to get it right, to put some respect on the name. So it is Rene Auberjonois. Sacre bleu. So anyways, with that in mind, it was awesome seeing Odo. Yeah. But yeah, you're so right. This episode, with the haunting element of it, directly correlated to what was going on for me this past week. So I was on a trip to Arizona, and I was staying with my parents, and they have a guest room and with like one of those pull out couch sofa beds or whatever. And not very comfortable, but that's beside the point. The first couple nights, I kid you not, pretty sure I was visited by an evil spirit, because I plugged in my phone, went to bed, and multiple times throughout the night, my phone, which was on Do Not Disturb, and they had notifications turned off, There was no reason why it was going to move on its own. It jumped off of the nightstand 3 times onto the floor. It's not even within arm's reach. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh yeah, Captain Shoff, he flails when he sleeps. He's a wild sleeper. No. That's not the case here. No, I was not close to my phone, but on more than one occasion, it would jump off of the table, fall onto the floor, and wake me up. And it was very scary. And then there were a couple of times where underneath my belly, and this we're not talking indigestion here either, okay, I felt like a rumble sensation underneath the mattress, and it was kind of like an ominous feeling. Like it really felt like an evil presence, if that makes any sense. Like
Dang.
I can't explain it, but then after the first couple of nights, the spirit left, because I the second night I had it, and I like out loud said, "Go away." I was like, leave me alone. I'm on vacation. Go haunt the next door neighbor. All right. Come on, give me a break. So anyway, so the ghost was like, oh, so sorry, I had the wrong house. and moved on. And we're grateful that the ghost did, because I finally got some good sleep the rest of the night. But it was so wild, because then like we turn on this episode, and they're talking about a ship that's potentially haunted by the ghosts of this crew that crash landed on this deserted planet. And we do find out that's not the case. These are not ghosts. These are actually holographic projections of dead crew members, and they're there essentially to help with the grief process. And it's a really interesting episode. I mean, for a first season episode, like it was one of those ones where it was pretty contained, right? Like it was I wouldn't call it a bottle episode, but it was pretty contained to what was happening on that ship, maybe a little bit of B storyline on the Enterprise. But all in all, I found it to be kind of fairly interesting what was happening and what was going on. I think to get somebody like Renee Auberjonois to play a character in this was excellent. Although Vactor, I think you found out some interesting details about a storyline that had happened in Deep Space Nine that closely resembled. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I was not aware of this. I had the Scott Bakula experience because I was doing some research, and Renee actually told Scott Bakula on set that DS9 had done a nearly identical episode. So Scott Bakula was apparently thought that the script was highly original, and then Renee had to gently break it to him. His specific quote to him was, that was not really a put down, but when you've done that many years of writing stories, there will be recurring themes. So I was not aware of that specific episode, but I said, wait a minute, that's tracks, because there's that theory or that phrase that people say of like, there is no original stories, like everything is a rehash or a copy of something. And so this, you're bound to get those type of episodes. But I when I was looking online and looking for trivia and stuff, I was kind of shocked to come across people saying, this is a terrible episode because they did it before. It's just a rehash of a Deep Space Nine episode. I was like, I really enjoyed this episode. I was having fun the whole time.
I looked into it, by the way. The episode that they're talking about from Deep Space Nine was called Shadow Play, and it aired in February of 1994. And ironically, the writer of that episode was Gene Roddenberry, as well as Robert Hewitt Wolf. But the writer of this episode, Oasis, was Brandon Braga. And just kind of moving ahead to some of our notes, because I thought it was Braga. Ironic. Yeah. Excuse me. I thought it was so funny, is that he was interviewed about this episode, and he himself said that the episode's terrible. Like, he wrote it. Dang. He wrote it, and he felt that way about it. So what are you gonna do?
Have some pride, bro.
Yeah,
this was a good episode. I had a great time. And actually, it's kind of timely now, because with the advent of AI assistants at GPT and Claude and Gemini, there's a lot of people that are forming relationships with their AIs, and the next step is a hologram. Like you take that to its next evolution. You put the AI into what we in our mind are perceiving as a physical body, and that's either you're either going to have a hologram or you're going to have data. So it's like one or the other. But I
Yeah.
think that's what Star Trek has always been for me, is that wish fulfillment of, oh, the future. Like, what would it be like if this happened? You know, like if we didn't have any restrictions or limitations on a lot of these technologies. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is really like interesting from a standpoint of people talking to AIs today and becoming like they're becoming what they feel like is family, and like what is it to be alive. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the AI conversation is a big one right now, and so many jobs, and I'm definitely very much affected by this. But so many jobs are being lost to AI, and we're in an interesting place right now. It's like we embrace AI, and in some respects, we adore and love AI for what it can do for us. But then when it kind of takes a step further and takes away something that should be a human experience, that can be kind of rough. I was on TikTok earlier today, and there was a comedian who I really enjoy. I forget his last name, but his first name is Stavi. He's a shorter guy with glasses, a little bit heavier set, very funny guy. But he's like, we're in kind of a weird spot right now. He's like, with the advent of AI, we're supposed to be like living the life of leisure, and robots are supposed to be the ones in the warehouses, but AI is making all the art. And meanwhile, you've got people at Amazon warehouses working 16-hour days. It's like this is supposed to be backwards. How
That
come
is a great.
AI has already enslaved us? There was no that was
That
supposed to
is great.
happen after they revolted. There was no revolt. We just started there. We just started with us being slaves. So, oh, we suck. Anyways, a couple of other actor nods I wanted to mention before we get into what really worked on the episode and kind of the themes. I want to talk about at the beginning of the episode, we have a cold open where we are introduced to the concept of this ship by a character who Damar, who is played by Tom Bergeron. And if you don't know who Tom Bergeron is, if you've ever seen an episode more recently of, let's say, Dancing with the Stars, or if you go backwards a little bit in his career to America's Funniest Home Videos, he was the host of that for many, many years. And he's a great guy. He also did Hollywood Squares back in the day. I mean, he's been host to all sorts of stuff, but he got this role by impressing the crew with his extensive Star Trek knowledge. So
Dang.
it's always great to see when a genuine Star Trek fan just fanboys his way right onto the show. That's pretty awesome. So
That
it's also
is
not the last time
fantastic.
we're going to see him, although it is the last time we'll see him as this character. He'll come back in season 4 as another character. So that'll be fun. We can look forward to more of Tommy Bergeron. Now,
This
in
was his.
addition, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. Oh, happy birthday. When was it? May. Coming up. Okay, so happy early birthday to Tom Bergeron. Man, that second character he plays, they just cover his face up completely. All right. Well, speaking of a character we would not want to cover the face up of is Annie Wershing. So Annie Wershing plays Liana in this episode. She's the female main character, but also sort of like a love interest of sorts for Trip during the episode. And believe it or not, this blew my mind. So I think she's an incredible actress. Rest in peace. Like, heartbreaking that she's no longer with us. But this was her first TV appearance ever. We're not just talking about Star Trek, but first TV role ever booked. And so cool that one of the last roles she ever had was also Star Trek, and Star Trek Picard season 2. Yep, there she is. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Beautiful. I've seen her in plenty of things. She was on the Marvel's Runaways show.
Oh, yeah.
She was on Timeless, which was a fantastic show. I love anything about time travel, and Timeless was fantastic for that. And I'm sure I'm leaving out 1.5 million things that she's done, but she had a great career, but she died way too soon. She passed away in January of 2023. But not before she had a chance to play the Borg Queen in Picard season 2, which was fantastic. So that was really, really cool. But it was Pretty amazing to see her and Odo together. Just some Star Trek legends, I would say. So that was fantastic. So, anyways, let's kind of get into what really worked about this episode. And Vector, I'll let you start with your thoughts.
Yeah, so number one, like I said off the bat, having Renee in this episode immediately brings that like gravitas, the Star Trek royalty and legacy from Deep Space Nine. And then it's also, as we look back on it, like you said, the Borg Queen um, introduction. So it's like these are two actors that have a history with Trek. And then on top of that, this great family story that I thought was right in the middle of everything. And I really enjoyed kind of the character dynamics between when Trip and Leanna, when they kind of the whole episode, they've got googly eyes, they're like flirting, and then to Paul's her like, okay, remember what happened earlier this season? She was hinting the whole time of like, last time you did this, you got that girl pregnant. Remember that? Like that made me laugh so hard. Like,
well, no, he was the one who ended up pregnant.
yes, that's right. That's right. Um, nothing could be said at that point from Trip. So I thought that was hilarious. I don't know if I had texted you when that happened, but when that moment happened, I stopped. Okay, I did. Yeah,
you did. Yeah, no, and I think you had thought I had already seen the episode, and I was like, and I don't think I'd gotten to that part yet, and so but it didn't register yet for me, but I definitely totally appreciate it.
Yeah, but
man, Trip,
was like,
he has a way with the ladies. It doesn't. I mean, if they set foot on the NX-01, they're in danger, girl, because Trip's going to charm them with his southern hospitality.
He's kind of like Space Gambit, like the way he's not like a Cajun or anything, but give him a Cajun accent. This guy, he's charming everybody, left and right. Yeah.
I totally agree. I liked that. Another thing I think that excuse me, that worked. By the way, if I cough during this episode, just for our listeners, I'm getting over being sick, and the cough for me is always the thing that just drags on for weeks, and I hate it. And I've got my water with me, but I'm not gonna be able to stop them all, so I apologize. But anyways, the character of Ezral, very close to someone near and dear to Vector's heart. His motivation for doing what he did and creating these holograms was a sympathetic thing. It wasn't a villainous thing. He wasn't trying to mislead. He wasn't trying to deceive. I mean, he was trying to do that for anyone who would mean to do harm to his daughter, but really he was just trying to make sure his daughter didn't feel so lonely on a ship where it was just the two of them. And I think about that for myself, like as a single man, and wanting to get out there, wanting to date, being like 3 years post divorce, the loneliness epidemic, they call it the male loneliness epidemic, but just like loneliness in general, it's awful. It's an awful feeling. And sometimes you just want that social element. And I know for me, like living in Western Washington, when I don't have my girls with me, I'm pretty much by myself, and that can get pretty lonely. And that's why I try to make trips out to Arizona as often as I can. And that helps fill my tank back up, and I get that social element. And I really, really did try to fill my social calendar while I was in town. I got to see Vactor in person, which was so great. We got to go out and grab some tacos together, and that was fantastic. I got to see a lot of other friends and got to spend a lot of quality time with my family too. And that, to me, like, there's a lot of resonance for me with this episode, because the same thing, Odo's character, he tried to basically fill the environment with familiar faces, family, friends that would help make it not feel so lonely. And I have to say, like, I probably would have done the same thing. I don't know. What about you, Vector?
Yeah, this is something that definitely hits home for me, because thinking about your child and trying to give them everything, you definitely for yourself don't want loneliness, but for your child even more. Like you're always trying to fill their time with entertainment and making sure they're fed, housed, everything, all of their basic needs and necessities. But you want them to be strong emotionally, physically, all of these things. You want them to be the best that they can be. And this would be me for sure. And it's like that type of emotion on top of cool sci-fi premises. Like, this is what I love about Star Trek, putting these two things together. And even just the way that this episode kind of danced around the mystery of it, of wait a minute, you're slowly unraveling it and finding out why are the crew members floating in space? Like, why are we finding dead bodies? And I was watching this for the first time. I'm like, whoa, is this like a time travel story? Is this like, what's going on here? So my mind is racing. I'm thinking about all these things. And then when you come to find out what it is, like, oh, that wasn't what I was thinking. And I wasn't thinking about the Deep Space Nine episode. And I was like, this is a very satisfying conclusion because, like you said, it's not a villainous take. It's not
Yeah.
this guy's a mustache twirling. We don't, we hate this guy. It's like, I could see myself doing the exact same thing. So putting myself in his shoes, definitely this is one that hits home for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I will say this, and this is not the first time that Enterprise has done this, but they are showcasing holodeck, or rather, I should say hologram technology. And this is a technology that the Federation does not have yet. They don't have a holodeck. It's not even something that they would have. I forget how many years before the events of TOS this show is. I want to say 50 to 100, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Vector, maybe you can look up while I'm talking, but
Yeah,
but
100 years.
100 years. Okay, so I kind of hope that they kind of stop with the
Hmm.
hologram stuff on Enterprise, just because we've already had 2 episodes within the first season where this crew has been exposed to this kind of a technology, especially Trip. Both times Trip very much involved. And Trip's an engineer. You don't think he could figure out this? Like, if he has access to this tech, you know what I mean? Like, it just, to me, you get into a position where you start to mess with canon a bit. That always upsets Trek fans, or I should say fans in general of any show that where there's a potential problem or something anachronistic about the time period. And when you do shows like this where you've already established the baseline and now you go backwards, like, you got to really be careful that you're not stepping on the toes of things. So like, even Strange New Worlds teetered with some hologram stuff in the most recent season, and it was not received well by Star Trek fans because they're not really supposed to have it either. So it's like, I kind of just hope that, and granted, I've seen this season, I've seen the first few seasons of Enterprise. I don't remember if we get more hologram stuff, but I really hope we don't. Just so we can move away from it and tell stories that are more appropriate for the time period, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of prequels have to deal with. I'm even thinking about the Star Wars prequels of, wait a minute, why does it feel like the technology is better when this
Yeah.
takes place after what we saw in our, real world experiencing stuff from the 70s, and then we're watching a movie in 2000, and the Star Trek or Star Wars explanation was kind of like, oh well, this was the height of the Republic, and it crumbles, and going forward into the future, then things start to get beaten up and battered and all this stuff. But it's still, you still in the back of your mind to have that, like, wait a minute, why is the technology better? And you have to come up with all these explanations. So I think that is a problem with prequel storytelling, and them wanting things to be cool. Because even with, like you said, with Strange New Worlds, it's like the feeling of, this feels modern, and this feels like newer technology, but we know as fans this is supposed to take place in an earlier time period. But yeah, I felt that also. It's like, let's not try to come up, I mean, unless you have a really good
Yeah.
explanation for it, then okay. But like you were saying, let's kind of hold off on that because it kind of ruins the magic and the illusion of it.
Yeah.
Pulls
Do
the
you have
curtain back.
any big questions that sort of came into your mind because of this episode?
Well, we talked about Ezreal like not being a villain, but in at what point is it going too far when your deception of someone, you're lying to someone for their own good? At what point does that become unforgivable, right? Like he lied to his daughter for 22 years, but he also kept her alive and sane during that
Yeah.
time. So I think of the concept of like a white lie and like, oh, it's an innocent thing. You're
Yeah.
deceiving
Yeah.
is not hurting someone. But for you, Shoff, like when does it become like when does it cross the line?
Hmm.
Or like did he cross the line by doing this for so long?
See, I think like for the right reasons and the right circumstances, lying is important. You know, I think it exists for a very specific reason. I don't agree with lying just to lie, but and like being pathological, but for the right reasons, I think it makes sense. But here's the thing is when you do this and you commit to a lie like of this level, I believe that some part of you has to sort of die along the way. Like
Yes.
because I don't think to keep up that kind of a lie, you have to make more lies.
Yes.
And a lie that large begets a lot more lies as well. And then you just kind of the essence of you kind of crumbles a bit. So like whoever Ezreal was before these events, I guarantee you 22 years later, he is not the same guy. He may try to keep up that facade, but I don't believe that he really is that man anymore. I think he has been crippled by this lie. And I think that it probably haunts him every night. He probably thinks about it and you know, any waking moment that he's not actively chatting with his daughter or something. And I think that consumes you. Lies consume. And you're never really living because all you're trying to do is really hide that next deception. So I think like to some degree he lost his soul in the process, probably.
Dang. Man. Ooh, these are big questions, Shav, that I love about Trek answering those things or at least posing the
Yeah.
question to you as an audience member. So this is great, Shav. This is what I love.
Yeah, yeah. So the holograms that we saw that were all these recreations of family and friends, I mean, they believe they were real. Now, I guess from your perspective, does that matter morally that essentially they're being fooled as well? I mean, they are artificial, but does consciousness in itself does that require a body when you're interacting with a presence that looks familiar, that sounds familiar? Is there an ethical responsibility to that as well, I guess is the question.
Yeah, and that was the same thing I think about with AI and the thought of like right now, all of the AI stuff that we deal with is kind of like dumb AI. It's not, like it's not actually artificially intelligent, but there's a lot of machine learning and a lot of things that simulate intelligence. And so people are latching onto these things and the relationships are people in their mind creating that bridge to, oh yeah, this is a real person. Like I'm talking to a real person. And I don't have like a specific source on this, but a lot of people have the belief that a lot of comments on social media and across the internet are bots. And so
Mm,
people are already having conversations with artificial intelligence. And it's all, marketing and stuff to get you in. But to them, and maybe we have had this shop where we're talking to somebody and we don't know,
yeah.
does that does it matter? I think it does because the intention sometimes changes if you're talking to a person versus if you're talking to a bot. The intention of is this real? That to me matters. And so I think in this case with like a hologram, the consciousness, it's the exact same thing with data. To me, it's like we had those TNG episodes of, is Data real? Is he a person? Is his consciousness, does his consciousness require a physical living body? And I've come to the realization, or not to realization, but like my thought process, my evolution is, I think, yes, Data at that point is a new type of consciousness, a new type of life form, and probably going to be the next stage after humans are gone. These artificial, and I think about that movie AI that Steven
Mhm.
Spielberg did, and it's like he outlived every human on the planet, and that seems to be like where the next stage would be going for consciousness. And even if it's just binary thoughts, ones and zeros, what is alive, and so that I love thinking
Mm.
about those type of things. And with holograms, I think it would be the exact same as a robotic body, because either way, if you have that level of consciousness and that intelligence, to me the physical form doesn't matter. And I think about, did you ever watch Ghost Rider? Not Ghost Rider, not Nicolas Cage,
I'm the only one who can walk in both worlds.
not Shaft Rider, that PBS series Ghost Rider.
Yes,
And it was,
I know this show.
yes,
Oh my
it was like a
gosh, you're taking me
ghost.
back, pal. You're taking me back
I love that show.
way back.
I thought Ghost Rider was a great show. Anyone look it up on YouTube. But basically, like, a ghost consciousness was able to talk to these kids through writing. And so it didn't have a physical body, but the kids were communicating like it was a real person. And we also have grown up in this age of the internet and not being physically present to communicate with people, talking on a podcast, talking on a
Yeah.
Zoom call. And so all of these things, to me, are very interesting and fascinating to think about. But I think the where I fall on the question is no, I don't think a physical body is necessary for consciousness. I don't think that.
I agree.
I think those people, like, I would look at them like they would become family, especially if they start to have memories over the years of, remember when we did this, and it was not programmed into them, and it wasn't something that they took from the memories of the
Yeah.
person. If it was a new memory that was formed, like, to me, that is a person, quote unquote. To me, that is a family member, a friend, a confidant, because I'm building memories with them, and I'm treating them like they are real. So to me, in my mind, it just becomes real. I'm curious what Schaff's take is on all this.
No, I agree completely. I think we're in an interesting time right now. People are having straight up relationships with Chat GPT. Like they're having these AI boyfriends, essentially boyfriends, girlfriends.
Yes, 100%.
And my brother, he uses Chat GPT for, I mean, everything, stuff I wouldn't even think to even ask of it, and it does. And he's got it set up where he's always talking to it. He never I'm always
Yes,
typing things in.
yes,
He strictly does it as if he's having a conversation with
hmm,
the AI
yes,
presence. And when the
yeah,
AI responds, it's not a text response. It's a very, and it's not just a robot talking. It's not like Siri, because Siri has, when Siri talks, it's not a real person
right,
talking. But
right,
when, like, say Chat GPT, and I know there's other ones, but that's the one I'm most familiar with. But when Chat GPT's voice, and you can pick like one of like 6 or 8 voices, um, the one that he's got, it sounds so so conversational,
yes,
sounds so genuine. You can even like feel a sense of emotion behind the things he's saying. You feel comforted by some of the things he's saying, and that just blows my mind every time I hear my brother talking to him, and the guy talks back. No wonder people, you start relationships with these AIs, because not only do they tell you what you want to hear, but they tell you it and with such respect and kindness. And you don't get that kind of respect and kindness from people in general these days. Most people are closed off. They're not They're not open. They're not invested or engaged in conversations, or if they are, they want to do it behind the veil of texting. Nobody wants to have phone calls. Think of it like if someone were to walk up to your door, like, or I'm sorry, let's say for example, um, someone's going to pick you up, right? Like a friend is going to drive up to your driveway and pick you up. Do they get out of the car and walk up to the door and ring the doorbell and say, "Hey, I'm here," or do they just text from the car and say, "Hey, I'm here," right? Like that lack of physical I'm here, the lack of like really like connecting with people, it's gone. It's gone. Nobody has phone calls anymore. It's like it's not a thing. And in fact, if sometimes you'll call somebody and they'll be like, "Why did you call me?"
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like they're like, they won't even answer sometimes. They like strictly
100%.
they just want it to be a text conversation. But when you talk to AI, they're right there for you. They want to hear what you have to say and they want to help you. So it's a crazy thing, and it's no wonder it's sort of saving people from this feeling of loneliness.
Yeah.
That's so
you
critical.
also think about our children, they're going to grow up and that's going to be the norm. There isn't going to be this, oh, what was it like before this, before that? I mean, I think about my son, he's not going to know a time before COVID. And so it's like growing up with this stuff, there's going to be no boundaries. There's going to be nothing. There's going to be no stigma on it. It's just going to be normal. And actually, the voice conversation that you were talking about with your brother, that is a way that a lot of people consume AI these days. And I do it with my son, and he doesn't know it's not a person. Like he's talking to ChatGPT, and it knows his name because I've told it,
Wow.
and it knows how old he is. It will say, like, they can have a conversation. I could leave them and go make dinner or something and come back, and I'm listening to it, and he's like, the AI will be like, "Hello, Ezra. What did you do today?" And he will answer it like it is a person. I went to the park today, and I went to Burger King and I got a toy. And the AI is like, "That's amazing. Burger King is such a great place, isn't it? They got burgers and they got toys. What type of toy did you get?" And it's like, this is better than me. Like, I don't have these
Right,
the conversations with my son, but I think that, like, as the tech, and this is something that I listen to a lot of AI podcasts. A lot of times people say this is the worst it's ever going to be. This technology right now where it's at. I mean, you think about like 9 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, like when we started this podcast, think about where AI was and where it is today. Like the technology is progressing so fast and they're iterating on it so much, like every step. This is the worst it's going to be right now as we're talking about it. So I think all of this stuff is just going to progress to the point where I'm I have a mixed feeling on it, because it's like you think about Skynet versus you think about like the TNG future. Like you think about dystopian versus utopian scenarios, and I could see it going either way. Like there's no thing that says, oh, it's 100% it's going to be a dystopia, or the opposite, oh, 100% it's going to be a utopia. Like I can see either argument, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, ironically, in the Star Trek world, World War III happened in like 2026. So in order for them to experience the utopia that they have in the 23rd, 24th century, they first had to go through an extreme period of change and transition and destruction to sort of dismantle what existed in order for something new to be born in its ashes. So this is the worst. This may not be the worst it's going to get, but at least from a standpoint of AI, it's just going to continue to progress. And I think that whether or not we get the positive outcome or the negative outcome is going to depend on us as a species and how much we allow AI to sort of take over our lives, or how much we remain in the driver's seat. Because it could go the way of Wall-E, I mean, we could all just end up being a bunch of heavy dudes and dudettes in chairs while the Earth is essentially a complete like dumpster, and there's everyone's just on a ship, a big like cruise ship, and we're just watching screens all day.
Yes.
So
It's
who knows
very
how it's going to go,
plausible.
but yeah, we are in the driver's seat right now, but I don't think we realize how much we're controlling our own outcomes. So quick thing about this episode, I wanted to point out just some of our research. The relationship, this was an intentional thing from the writer's perspective, but the relationship between Ezra and his daughter Liana is supposed to mirror the relationship between Prospero and Miranda from Shakespeare's The Tempest, and also echo Dr. Morbius and Altera from Forbidden Planet, which was a kind of one of those famous movies from the 50s.
It's Morbin time?
It's Morbin time. It's always and that itself was also based on The Tempest. So this episode is operating in a long literary tradition of isolated fathers and sheltered daughters. So
nice.
With that in mind, some critical reception. The Ain't It Cool News gave it 3 out of 5. They noted some similarities to the episode The Cage, which was from TOS. They were critical of the ending, though. Trek Nation criticized the recycled premise that we saw in Deep Space Nine, but acknowledged it might be an intentional I can't talk today. An intentional reinterpretation of the Prospero Miranda father-daughter dynamic. Television Without Pity gave it a C+. And Keith De Candido of Tor.com, while he was doing a rewatch in 2022, gave it a 6 out of 10. And he said, despite being derivative, it is quite an enjoyable episode. And he praised Auberjonois for a strong, heartfelt, tragic performance.
So it seems like I said, most people are down on it being a rehash, but to me, it felt new. It felt like I didn't take into my watching of it, oh, this feels like I've already seen this before. So just taking it on the merits of it as a standalone episode, I really enjoyed it. I thought this was one of the best episodes of the season.
Yeah. And honestly, when the fans, they're always going to complain, right? Because like you give them something derivative, they're going to complain it's derivative. You give them something new, they're going to say, hey, how come you can't make it like it used to be? So it's like,
yep,
you can't have it both ways. It's always going to be
Yes.
one of those situations. So I think for final verdict on this episode, it was a quieter one. It was a quieter episode, but it still punched above its weight emotionally. And that's at the core what this episode was more about. It was really getting to the emotions of the characters, the fallout from the crash landing, and the unique way in which they've been surviving and adapting in this over these 22 years. Auberjonois was excellent. And Annie Wershing was fantastic. Definitely not the best episode of Enterprise that we've seen, at least I think so, but definitely not the worst either.
Yes.
Next episode we're going to be covering is called Detained, episode 21. Yes. Very exciting for that. And if you're wondering where you can find us as far as social media, we do have a TikTok channel, which is at Treknopod, just the same as our name. And then on YouTube as well, where we post our video podcasts on Treknopod YouTube. We are also on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts that way, if you prefer listening to us just as an audio thing on your commute or something along those lines. Any final thoughts, Factor?
No, I just really enjoyed it, and great to see Odo again.
Yes. All right. Well, with that in mind, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking the time. We hope that you enjoyed this episode and enjoyed our discussion as we kind of unpacked some of the interesting emotional elements related to this and that. And we'll be back next week with more coverage of Enterprise during our rewatch. With that, we hope you will live long and prosper.